Conservation Ag Update is brought to you by Yokohama.
Welcome inside Conservation Ag Update. Hope everyone had a great 4th of July holiday. My name's Noah Newman. The drought is once again the big story as dry conditions continue to cause problems across much of the U.S. Despite some much-needed rain throughout parts of the Corn Belt and other regions, corn and soybean conditions at the end of June were actually the worst since 1988, as illustrated by this Ag Web graphic. Now, according to the USDA, only 50% of corn and 51% of soybeans are considered in good to excellent condition. But is there relief in sight? That's the question. Maybe, says Gary Schnitkey of Farm Doc Daily at the University of Illinois.
We don't know that at this point in time, and any rains that may occur between now and mid-July may alleviate much of that drought. For example, we had a lot of dry conditions in 2000, but that year we also had an above-trend yield. If we look moving forward, though, however, at this point in time, there isn't much call for rain, and if we look at conditions moving forward, many people, including the USDA, is suggesting that drought may persist and perhaps intensify in much of northern and central Illinois.
Some no-tillers are growing concerned that this year could turn out as dry as 1988, which was the worst drought year since the Dust Bowl. It was especially bad in Illinois that year, prompting a visit from President Ronald Reagan to drought-stricken areas in the state. You're looking at video from July 14, 1988. We have an article on no-tillfarmer.com featuring 10 lessons learned from 1988 that can help lessen crop risk from an early season drought. Check out the article to see how certain management practices can help you beat the drought. And some farmers in the Corn Belt are also in cleanup mode now after an intense line of thunderstorms known as a Derecho ripped through the central United States last week. Here's a look at some of the damage caused by 100-mile-per-hour wind gusts in central Illinois. New Berlin farmer Marty Marr holding up a corn stalk after his field was flattened by the Derecho June 29th. AccuWeather senior commodity meteorologist Dale Moeller says some of this corn is likely to recover and produce a normal yield, but some fields may not recover, and there will no doubt be some crop loss. Time now to check in with Assistant Editor McCain Vogel, standing by with today's Cover Crop Connection.
Thanks, Noah. McCain Vogel here, Assistant Editor for Cover Crop Strategies. At a recent Jefferson County, Wisconsin field day, Brendan Blanc of Byron Seeds talked about a versatile cover crop mix known as Maize Pro that is literally growing in popularity. Designed for planting around August, it is meant to overwinter and come through in the spring. Let's take a closer look at what's in this mix.
It's got quite a variety of stuff in it. Some summer annuals that winter kill. It's got some of the radishes. It's some flax, some phacelia. A lot of stuff that winter kills, but also a lot of stuff that overwinters. I mean, we got the hairy vetch here. We got some crimson clover, a number of different clovers. But it's been a really, really popular mix. Really like the balance of it. It gives us really good growth in the fall with some of the warm season stuff as well as the cool season stuff once those fall off. So, I mean, all the different growing seasons that we encounter from August through October and into November and then starting again in the spring, it's really got something that really maximizes all those. There's a lot of variety in it, and one of the neat things that's just kind of been fun with it is it's got such a good balance to it. You can pretty much go out there and find every single species that's within it. A lot of times you get a cover crop mix, and it can be hard to find everything that you had in there. And that's been fun with this one. It's just been a really solid mix for us that's been growing in popularity.
Brendan also noted that it's so versatile that whether it's a dry environment, a wet environment, planted late versus planted early, it can adapt quite well to lots of different seasons and environments. Back to you, Noah.
Thank you very much, McCain. Bay City, Michigan farmer John Burke started planting cover crops 20 years ago to fight a major pest. Cyst nematodes were wreaking havoc on his sugar beets. So he planted radishes, and their allelopathic effect have all but eliminated the problem. They've also helped with compaction, which was another major issue caused by the size of those sugar beet roots. Now John uses up to 5 different species of cover crops at a time. As he shows us here, winter peas have shot to the top of his power rankings for their ability to fix nitrogen.
Said it was more for the nitrogen benefit to help the radishes grow a little better, but also when they overwinter, which the peas typically do here in Michigan anymore, is we can get these nice little nitrogen nodules, and we get quite a bit of nitrogen credit out of these peas. And now these are what they call an Austrian winter pea, where typically they will freeze out over winter, but we've had such mild winters the last few years, they just overwinter and they start growing again for us.
Some people are watching this, they're looking for some advice about, tips for success when it comes to cover crops. Just what's some of the wisdom you would share in that department?
Well, if you're going to do cereal rye, which is a great cover crop, I like it. You get a lot of, once it's about, knee high to about waist high, the roots are already down around 42 inches. That's the deepest the rye root's going to go. It's time to terminate it. It don't need to go anymore. The only problem is with the cereal rye, this time of year, you get a day like today, it rains tonight, that stuff will go from, being 6 inches high to waist high pretty much overnight. So you kind of have to be on the ball with trying to terminate rye. We had over 1,000 acres one year, and it was a wet, warm spring. That wasn't a fun spring trying to keep up with that rye. But we managed, and we had beautiful soybeans. I mean, sometimes you have to make some tracks in the field. You don't like to see it, trying to kill that stuff. But that soil is really forgiving when you have that much organic matter and that rye mixed into the soil. So it really wasn't that big of a deal once we did it.
Now, for first-time cover croppers, Burke recommends not being too aggressive, maybe starting small or trying something that winter kills. So as McCain showed us a few minutes ago, farmers in southeastern Wisconsin got an up-close look at the power of cover crops and no-till at the Jefferson County Soil Builders Field Day. Soil health expert Jamie Patton digging deep into a field that recently transitioned to no-till and cover crops after decades of conventional tillage. And Patton shows our Michaela Paulkner how these conservation practices are transforming the soil after just 3 years.
So we see some of this pore structure here at the soil surface. And so as I break this out, we notice that it is a large chunk, right? And that we don't have very good aggregation. We'll see that continue on down through the soil profile. So this farmer has been no-tilling for about 3 years now. And what I like to point out is how beautiful the roots are starting to fill in some of these aggregates. So when we look at these roots, we can see this cover crop, which is a 12-way, 12 or 20-way multi-species mix, a lot of species in here. We'll notice the roots are getting down through here. And what I always want to point out is even though this compaction is occurring, that when I start to try and crumble it apart, what those roots are doing are helping to break that platy structure apart. You'll notice is I'm not having any difficulties in breaking this into smaller aggregates. And that's what the roots are doing for this soil, is they're helping to recreate those aggregates, recreate that pore space, recreate that tilth that makes this soil a healthy soil.
Moving on now to our Ahead of the Curve segment, 5 new technologies that may be of interest to no-tillers and strip-tillers were on display at the Linco-Precision Field Day. Greeneye, Augmenta, FarmWave, LeafTech, and Sabanto showcase their cutting-edge technologies. Check out PrecisionFarmingDealer.com for an in-depth look at each of these products and their potential benefits in a no-till, strip-till system. We featured LeafTech's handheld tissue analysis tool in the premiere episode of Conservation Ag Update, you may remember. And Linco-Precision owner Skip Kleinfelter says it's actually one of the products generating a lot of interest right now.
The hottest thing as far as interest is the autonomous tractor, but I think that's going to be the slower adoption just because it is such a leap for people. But the FarmWave system here, it's on my combine, you can show a pretty good ROI to that, and it's less expensive to begin with. The LeafTech system, especially for retailers or multiple large farmers, those are kind of just no-brainers if you do the ROI on them. And we calculate that. We sit down with people. I don't recommend a 500-acre farmer to rent a LeafTech system if he's going to do it himself. Although there could be some payback there. It just, it struggles. But we have a couple of larger farmers here, and there's a large farm group that's represented today. And they're looking at buying them or renting them and sharing them amongst themselves.
Good stuff there from Skip. Have you heard of the LaserWeeder? It's a machine from a company called Carbon Robotics that uses AI and laser technology to zap weeds. Our video of the week here shows it laser weeding in densely planted chard. CEO Paul Mikesell says the LaserWeeder pays for itself within 3 years with an 80% reduction in weed control bills. That number comes from a couple different growers on the West Coast. Laser weeders will be making their way to the East Coast and Canada in 2024. Friendly reminder to shoot me an email if you have a video or story you'd like to see on the broadcast. Until next time, for the latest headlines, head to no-tillfarmer.com. Thanks for tuning in to Conservation Ag Update. I'm Noah Newman. Have a great day.